Remembering the Solway is an oral history project, and it's putting the people into the landscapes you've been talking about this afternoon and this morning. And it's bringing the landscape to life and those changes that have happened over the generations. So the project is part of one of the 29 projects within the Solway Wetlands Landscape Partnership Scheme, which is funded by the Heritage Lottery, and it was started in 2015 and ends this spring, 2017. And the aims is to capture the memories of people living on the Solway Plain over the past century. So why should we do this? Well, life and landscape has changed dramatically over the past 50 to 100 years. And there are still people around who have experienced these changes over time. And now technology allows us to preserve these memories for the future. And oral history allows us to experience the past through the eyes of the people, so bringing it to life. And it is also often a means of people, for people in communities to come together and develop their understanding and appreciation of the past. So what are we going to be doing, or what have we been doing? Well, we've developed, with the project and some core local ambassadors sitting here this morning and this afternoon, I think some at the back there. And we've recruited and trained a group of volunteers in oral history practice, and they've gone out and done the oral history themselves. They've identified people, local people, to interview and carried out recordings, and it's absolutely invaluable, the amount of knowledge, local knowledge, that's important in oral history, because without that and the local ambassadors, we wouldn't have an oral history project. We met every 2 weeks in the Port Carlisle Chapel to have updates and to review things and the interviews that have been carried out. And we've also had local drop-in days where people have come in from the local community to see what we're doing, and they've actually brought photographs and documents in to support the stories, and that's been absolutely fabulous. And so far they've actually recorded 40 people in the community, and they're still wanting to do more and more, but we have to kind of draw a line to the recording so that we can get the other things done as well, because we're going to be, well, we have started making a short film of the project, and still to come we've got the transcriptions of all the interviews. They're starting to come in now, and design and publication of a booklet. So that's why we need to kind of draw a line under the oral histories for the time being, and get them transcribed and put into this lovely booklet that will be circulated. And also we're going to upload as many of the interviews as possible to the website, so that'll be something to look forward to. And we're going to create a complete archive of recordings, and they'll be deposited at Tully House Museum and Art Gallery Trust in Carlisle. And we'll also have, like your project, the Port Carlisle project, a celebratory event. I think that's important, to celebrate and showcase what we've been doing, and to thank everybody for the contributions to the project. So the main themes were around farming and industry, and the peat cutting, the mosses, growing up, childhood, school days in the area, the railway and pastimes. And this is the area, the Cardonic Peninsula, that we're actually focusing on. There's lots of stories in the whole area of the Solway, but just this project can't manage that area, so we're just focusing on the Cardonic Peninsula area. And we've got, are we right? Yeah. Around this area, we've got Port Carlisle, Bowness, all around the area, and the mosses as well, Blossom Moss, all around here, the Anthorn, Cardonic. So it's that whole area there. So what is oral history, you might ask? Well, everybody indeed in this room, everywhere, has a unique story to tell, and it's about capturing that story. And the oral history is about gathering and recording these unique stories. And through oral history, we can listen to personal experiences and hear the emotions in their voices. So we're bringing those emotions to life. I mean, you can read about them in books, about these stories, but it's actually the oral history that actually brings the stories to life. So why should we do it, and why are memories important? I think that's quite key. Memories are important because they create and reinforce personal identity. They connect the past with the present. They give a different perspective on history. And through oral history, we can listen to people who are actually there. So you're being transported back in time, listening to these stories. And also they alter people's perceptions of each other. You might have some idea about somebody, and it might be totally changed when you've heard their stories. And the benefits of oral history. Well, the knowledge of the past can help shape the future. It is good for intergenerational understanding, and oral history gives a voice to unrecorded history. And we can also, most importantly, in this particular project, is to learn the history of the Solway firsthand and record memories before they are lost. And the legacy of the project is to record, as we've said, record the memories in the archive for posterity. We have a presence on the website, produce a book of the project and a video, and then, as I said before, a celebratory event for participants and partners. Now, we're going to listen to some of the extracts from some of the recordings, and this is Daphne's story.
My earliest memories, I remember playing with other children in the village, and we played most of the time, when it was fine, on the marsh. In the summer holidays, we learned to swim in the docks, and also when we were young, we used to meet the tide at the west end of the jetty. We used to wait until we saw the bow wave coming down, and we used to stand waiting for it until it was deep enough to swim, and then we just used to lie back and float around with it into the pool at the front. We also used to wait until the stony island in the middle was covered with water and swim across to the jetty again, jumping off the steps. We really enjoyed that, and it made you a strong swimmer.
That was Daphne, and this actually is Tony from Red Onion Films in Lancashire, and he's been taking photographs of the different themes that will be matched together with the recordings to make this video. And here we have Port Carlisle again, and this is Jeff Hodson, I think this one. Yeah, Jeff Hodson, and if you just listen carefully at the beginning.
And bird nesting and stuff like that used to be very 70, quite a lot, but we did have some very rare birds' eggs actually. Tree creepers, kestrels, kestrel hawk, sparrowhawk, swans, curlews, all these moss birds. We used to walk over the moss, get curlew's eggs, gull's eggs, skylarks and stuff like that. We had quite a good collection actually. Yeah, it was interesting because that sort of thing we were interested in at the time. We don't seem to have the same interest now, but I suppose the birds are still there, but mostly by the shore, I think. Them in the fields like you used to because of the modern type farming. You're always in Sally's fields that early on nests are there and probably get ruins. It's rather a difficult time for the birds in that respect, like.
So he's recording the changes, his memories of changes and how it was when he was younger. And this one is Jean's story, and this is Whitehome, where she used to live, where the chemical works, where she's growing up.
I don't really know whether I'd be termed a railway child or a moss child, but I think I would have been quite happy with both. The place as a small child was wonderful. It was idyllic. The railway workers were our friends, and they'd get off the train and come and buy my baby rabbits. And my little dungarees I used to wear were continually covered in creosote from sitting on the British Rail gates waving at the steam trains. I have a sister, Barbara. We both had rabbits. She had Panda and I had Whisper. And they were Dutch rabbits. And we used to take them for walks up the railway line. The dandelions were always best on the railway line birches. So we used to take our rabbits, and you didn't need to put a lead on these rabbits, they just hopped along beside us. And the pair of us used to walk along with the rabbits to go and get them their teas. And this was marvellous, and there were occasionally we shut their hutches at night, but I remember there was one night that David's rabbit from the Brown's house on the hill came down to visit, and we hadn't shut Whisper the door in. And that's how I got baby rabbits that the railwaymen bought.
Wonderful stories. The next one is about peat cutting.
One of my first jobs was on the moss with the father and family, and father used to cut the peat and I used to help him take the top sod off, as they called it, and put it in the ditch to keep the moss level. Now, after we got all the peat cut we needed, we used to start and stool the peat, crisscross them to make sure the wind could get through them. The next stage was to re-wall them, which you made them another foot higher, depending how many peats there was available, you know. So it was quite some job. And then we were bitten with midges, so we used to put dimp on our faces to stop the midges biting. And used to get up maybe 4 o'clock in the morning to try and beat the heat. But you had to work hard when it was dry, because if it was wet you couldn't work. The planks were slippy and you just had to play safe.
And this photograph here is a family visiting the family member digging the peat. They're not actually helping to dig, although they did come in the holidays, the school holidays. They would come up with a picnic and the families would all work together and help each other. But this is just a posed picture there. And this one is Margaret Sharples, and she's talking about the industrial side of peat cutting and the railways.
On the peat moss, there were a lot of railway lines to bring the peat in the bogies down from the moss. And these bogies were pulled by small railway engines, mostly Ruston Bucyrus engines. Now, these locomotives used to run up and down the peat moss on the railway lines to bring the moss down to the mill. There were 2 men employed full-time keeping the railway lines up to scratch. The peat moss was soggy. They were like real miniature railways, and the sleepers used to sink and so they always had to be kept up to scrap.
I think we've got time for another one. Well ahead of time, I think. Yeah. And this is Alan Hodson, Sarah's husband, talking about farming but milking, focusing on the milk in this extract.
We started helping on the farm when we were very young. I used to feed the calves when they were all in some pens across the road. So I've experienced calf rearer from an early age. Later on, we had a milk round, and then when we bought another farm at Colbeck, I had to do it, so I had it about 7 years. I didn't mind the delivering the milk, but I didn't like collecting the money much. It was quite lucrative for a few years. I think we got bigger on the farm and we hadn't time. It was a lot of work washing bottles and bottling the milk every day. About 10 years later, the bio was extended to 80, so we're getting into big time now. And a pipeline was put in the bio, and the milk went straight to the milk tank, so it was a big improvement.
I think we'll play Brunties next, seeing as you're here. Have you got that one there?
Drumble School was the first school I went to. The teacher, she carried me on my arms and my legs every day I went to school because I couldn't do arithmetic. And I used to go home at night and cry, and Auntie would say to me, "What's the matter?" And I would say, "Well, I have the cane today." She would say, "Why did you have the cane?" And I said, "Because I couldn't do sums. I couldn't do long division. I just hated school." And so I used to cry at night, and Auntie would say, "What's the matter?" "I wish I was a good summer," I used to say. When I said summer, you know, I meant good at sums.
Thank you, Bunty. So that just gives you a flavour of some of the stories we've collected over the past year, and we'll get some more. Once we get them on the website, we'll be putting some extracts onto the website.